They came with a white flag. They promised safety. Hours later, 120 men, women, and children lay dead in the dirt. This isn't fiction. This happened on American soil, and it was covered up for 150 years. You're part of a wagon train. It's September 1857. You've been traveling for weeks. Dust, heat, silence. Then finally, green grass, fresh water, a place to rest. You settle in. Mountain Meadows. It feels safe. But in the hills above you, men are watching, waiting somewhere paint, somewhere uniforms. All of them belong to the same church. And in 4 days, they'll kill you, your family, everyone. Not in battle, not by accident, on purpose. This isn't a war story. It's a massacre. And for over a century, nobody talked about it. Let's set the stage. It's the 1830s. Joseph Smith founds a new religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. They're different. Their beliefs are seen as radical. They practice polygamy, and everywhere they go, they face violence and persecution. In Ohio, they're accused of bank fraud. In Missouri, tensions explode into the Mormon War of 1838. In Illinois, Joseph Smith is arrested, then murdered by an angry mob in 1844. Smith's death terrifies his followers. They need a leader. They need safety. Enter Brigham Young. Young makes a bold decision. The Mormons will leave the United States entirely. In 1846, thousands pack up and head west, toward Mexican territory. But here's the twist. By the time they reach what's now Salt Lake City, that land belongs to the United States. The Mexican-American War had just ended. They can't escape American control after all. Still, Young doesn't give up. He builds a powerful Mormon settlement in Utah. He becomes the territorial governor in 1850, but he runs things his own way. He allows polygamy, creates his own laws, arrests strangers who enter without permission. He even tries to make an independent state. President James Buchanan, he's not having it. In 1857, he sends federal troops to Utah to replace Young and take back control. This becomes known as the Utah War, and it's during this tense standoff that the Mountain Meadows Massacre unfolds. Now let's meet our victims. The Baker Fancher wagon train, about 137 people, men, women, and children from Arkansas, heading to California to start new lives. They have no idea what's going on in Utah, no clue about Young's martial law, no idea about the paranoia gripping the settlers. They just need rest and supplies. When they reach Salt Lake City in August 1857, they're turned away. Nobody will sell them food or supplies. So they head south to Mountain Meadows, a lush valley with grass for their cattle and water for their people. It seems peaceful. While the Baker Fancher party rests, rumors spread in Mormon communities. They insulted our faith. They violated martial law. They're federal spies. They poisoned the water. Is any of it true? No, not a shred of evidence. But local Mormon militia leaders, Isaac C. Haight and William H. Dame, believe the rumors, or at least they say they do. They see these immigrants as a threat. They decide to act. Militia officer John D. Lee is summoned. According to his later confession, Haight tells him these immigrants have insulted, outraged, and ravished many Mormon women. Lee asks, "Whose authority?" Haight replies, "It is the will of all authority." An ominous hint that Brigham Young has approved. A messenger is sent to Young for guidance. But they don't wait for an answer. They make a plan, and it's horrifying. September 7th, 1857. Mormon men disguise themselves as Paiute Indians. They recruit some real Paiutes too, offering loot from the wagons. They surround the camp, and they attack. But the emigrants fight back. They circle their wagons, dig trenches, defend themselves. 7 are killed that first day, 16 more wounded, but they hold out. 5 days. 5. Their food runs low, water is scarce, ammunition nearly gone. The Mormon leaders now face a problem. They can't let anyone survive. Why? Because the survivors would say the attackers weren't all native. They would expose the truth. So, a terrible decision is made. September 11th, 1857, John D. Lee approaches the camp. He holds a white flag. He promises safety, says the Paiutes will let them go if they surrender their weapons and leave stock. The emigrants are desperate, exhausted. They agree. They lay down their arms, abandon their wagons, and trust Lee. Men are separated from the women and children, marched in different directions, and then the Mormon militia opens fire. Men shot first, then the women and the older children. Some are beaten with rifle stocks, others stabbed, skulls crushed. When it's over, about 120 people lie dead. Only 17 children are spared, all under 6, too young, they think, to remember anything. These children are taken into Mormon homes. Some are mistreated. Bodies are buried in shallow graves, belongings looted, and a cover story is born. The Paiutes did it. The Mormon leaders need an explanation, so they blame the victims, say they poisoned water, and the Paiutes retaliated. But Chief Kenosha, leader of the Pavant band, doesn't buy it. He calls the story false. Federal investigators begin digging. Major James Henry Carleton interviews Paiutes. Even some Mormons step forward, horrified by what they saw. What about Brigham Young? He claims he told the settlers to leave the wagon train alone, but the message arrives too late. Young launches an internal investigation, but puts George A. Smith in charge, the same man who had told Mormons not to help the travelers. By June 1858, the official story blames the Paiutes again. But the federal investigation begins in 1859, and truth starts to rise. The 17 orphaned children remember. They recognize their mother's jewelry, now worn by Mormon women. They see their father's branded horses in Mormon stables. Major Carleton and Jacob Forney work to reunite them with family back in Arkansas. Arrest warrants go out for Haight, Higbee, and Lee. They flee. Lee ends up in Arizona, sets up Lee's Ferry. Then comes the Civil War, and justice stalls. Finally, in 1871, Philip Clingan Smith, one of the attackers, talks. He gives a full eyewitness account in exchange for immunity. Lee becomes the scapegoat. In 1877, he's tried, found guilty, and executed. Shot by firing squad at the very site of the massacre. The others, they're never punished. The Mountain Meadows Massacre is one of the darkest chapters in American and Mormon history. For nearly 150 years, the church said it was local leaders. They still blamed the Paiutes, but that changed. In 1990, descendants of the victims, Paiute representatives, and Mormon leaders come together. They dedicate a memorial. In the 2000s, the church opens its records, and on September 11th, 2007, 150 years to the day, the church officially accepts responsibility. President Henry B. Eyring says, "What was done here long ago by members of our church represents a terrible and inexcusable departure from Christian teaching and conduct." In 2011, Mountain Meadows becomes a national historic landmark. The Mountain Meadows Massacre teaches us something crucial. Even the darkest truths eventually come to light. It took 150 years for full accountability, 150 years for justice, even if partial. Religious paranoia, fear of outsiders, the human capacity for violence, a perfect storm, a devastating result. This isn't just Mormon history or Utah history. This is American history, and we must remember it. Because if we forget these stories, we risk repeating them.